And welcome. My name is Kelly Jessup, and I'm the Assistant Director for Digital Learning at Yale School of Management Executive Education. I hope that your year is off to a great start, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon for the introduction to Yale's CIMA prep course, which is called Investment Management Theory and Practice. This is our 7th year offering this program, and during that time, we've actually worked with over 3,000 candidates. So in our webinar today, we encourage you to listen and engage. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. This is your time. Our program director, Jim Dobbs, is very knowledgeable, and this is a really good opportunity to pick his brain. To ask questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can submit your question to everyone or just to me, but I suggest you send it to everyone as there are often similar questions in mind. If you do have any technical issues, you can send those to me via chat, and we will try to get those resolved quickly. So now I'd like to introduce our program director. Jim Dobbs is CIMA certified. He's also CFP and CPWA certified. He was a financial advisor for 25 years and ran his own RIA practice before retiring to work full-time in his financial education company. Jim has worked with different certifying bodies and universities for the last 20 years, helping to build and manage financial certification programs. More importantly, though, Jim has had extensive experience with the Investments in Wealth Institute. He personally helped create the CPWA certification and has served IWI in many roles, including as chair of IWI's Technical Advisory Board. You'll see he's passionate about what he does. He's committed to success, and he measures his success based on yours. Please welcome Jim Dobbs.
Oh, thank you very much, Kelly. Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, so great to have you. We just want to go through our program at Yale, Investment Management Theory and Practice. We do want to talk about the CIMA certification. I imagine some of you are at the point where you're like, yeah, CIMA is what I'm going to do. I just need to pick my route, my provider, my test prep. And some of you are probably like, I like what I see so far, but I'm not sold on CIMA certification yet. Not quite sure if this is the right one for me at this stage in my career. So we're going to talk about both of those. I'll hit the high points. I am going to go into some of the details that I think will help you make a decision on either of those choices that you have to get the certification, one, and B, whether Yale's the right fit for you. But this is really your hour. So we'll go as long as you want to go. We'll take questions throughout. We'll do questions at the end too. So you just think up those questions. There are no, for this particular session, unlike at the end of your test prep and you've spent hundreds of hours or whatever it is, and there could be some silly questions there are no silly questions at this point. You're at the beginning of this process. So whatever comes to your mind, you just go ahead and type it in. Kelly will serve those up to me as she gets them, or in a couple of cases, if she knows I'm going to hit that topic a little later, she may hold on to that question. All right, so first point of distinction I want to make, I mentioned CIMA certification. We are not your certifying body. I think probably most, if not all of you know that, but just in case. Investments in Wealth Institute, they are your certifying body. They own the marks, they own the exam, they own the content. It's their certification. We at Yale provide education and test prep to help you get ready and hopefully pass your certification exam on your first attempt. So that's the difference. We kind of work in partnership, if you will, but they are your certifying body. So if you're not familiar with them, you want to go to the website, got it right there for you, or you could just Google it, it'll pop right up. You want to spend a decent amount of time on their website learning the ins and outs of this certification, because there are lots out there. I'll talk about a few of them specifically in a minute. But you want to know what is required to earn the marks, what's required to keep the marks, all those kinds of things. Here's just kind of a little snapshot of their organization from one of the slides they had for us. And you can see it's a pretty impressive organization. When I got involved almost 20 years ago now with IWI, it was because of their focus on academics, deep technical issues for financial advisors, investment consultants, etc. So you want to poke around their website and see what kind of resources they have. All right, so a couple of things on CIMA certification, and we'll compare it to CFP and CPWA and CFA in just a minute. That being said, this is for investment advisors. You don't have to be a portfolio manager. I would even argue that's more of a CFA. CIMA is really for, in my opinion, just about anybody in the investment services world who is really not an institutional money manager or a securities analyst. That would be better carved out for CFA curriculum. But if you're in service, you're in sales, you're making recommendations, you have discretion over portfolios like I did as an RIA for about 25 years before I retired from my business. Yeah, CIMA was built and developed from a content standpoint for all of us in that space, which clearly is the majority of us in the investment services space. You can see some of the numbers up here with average AUM for those who were managing money on an individual basis, not firm-wide or group-wide, but about 300 million under management. And in today's dollars, that's about where I was when I was managing my practice about midway through. There was some more good data from third-party providers on IWI's website. You got to dig a little bit for it, but go into the CIMA dropdown and look for resources, and then you'll see some white papers and studies there. I think it's helpful, to see who CIMA designees are, like, what part of the industry they come from, how long have they been in practice, some quantitative data like this. I think it's also good if you need to still convince your boss or your manager that this is a worthwhile endeavor and possibly to even reimburse you for earning this certification. I think you'll find some interesting data that you can show them to help make your cause that this is worth going for. All right, the certification process, again, through IWI, it's pretty easy, but I do want to just kind of go through this real fast. You'll submit an application for candidacy through IWI. They'll run a background check, usually your U4 if you have one, on the regulatory side, just to make sure it looks acceptable. And then they'll cross-check your background and your application, that kind of thing. Once they approve you, they will reach out to us and say, hey, Jim's been approved as a new CIMA candidate. He chose Yale on his application form. That's actually where you choose your education provider. And so here you go. Here's his information, and you take the ball and go with it. So it takes them about a few days to a week, usually, to complete their background checks and do their application reviews. It takes us a few days to a week, give or take, to get you up and running over at Yale. So the whole thing, about 2 weeks, could be less, but you should plan on it taking about 2 weeks with all the things that have to be done to get you into the program and logged on to the site, which we'll talk about in a minute. So once you get in, you're going to pass the education course that I'm going to lay out for you in a minute. Then you're going to spend actually most of your time with us, if you choose Yale, just doing your test prep. You're going to spend probably 30 to 40 hours at the course level, just passing your course. And then you're going to spend maybe 100 hours, maybe more, on test prep, just getting ready for the cert exam. Once you pass the certification exam, then IWI will send you licensing paperwork. Once they do another background check, you'll be good to go. So pretty easy process in that regard. All right, scholarships. They're still offering scholarships over at IWI, and the range now, it goes up and down, but the range right now is about $1,000 to $5,000 per person. So, oh my goodness, if you see anything on the left side there that makes you think, I got a shot, then I think it's worth 15 minutes to fill out the application. Actually, I don't even think it would take you that long. The candidacy application we just talked about takes longer because you've got all your regulatory and your background and fill in all your jobs and all that stuff. But the scholarship eligibility application, that's a much shorter endeavor. So I will go ahead and spend 10 or 15 minutes to do that. That one can take at least a week. I'm hearing right now it's a couple of weeks to hear back. So if you have any interest in that or think you might be eligible, in fact, you might even pull it up on your other screen right now and just start filling that out and knock that out while I'm jabbering on. So, but at $1,000 to $5,000, yeah, I think that's worth 10 or 15 minutes just to have a shot at that. Okay, core curriculums, talk a little bit about this, then I'll make you an offer in terms of some more detailed content that I have for you. So you can see how it's broken down here. They start with fundamentals. That's just kind of like a business school review. And this is right off of the IWI core contents topics list for CIMA, listing all the different areas, not just the major and sub areas here, but even the minor areas in which they could test you on the CIMA certification exam. So in the big picture, they start with fundamentals just to brush up on statistics, a little bit of algebra, some time value of money, going back through global market history, capital markets, that kind of thing. Then we're going to get into the second domain, as they call it, domain 2. And that is kind of like a Series 7 review in my mind. Now, there'll be some new stuff you haven't seen before, but this is a lot of stocks, bonds, other basic types of instruments and structures, those kinds of things. Options and futures you see there, that's pretty complicated. If you're like me and had to do some securities exams in that area, I thought those were some of the more challenging securities exams. I think it makes up right now 2% of the exam. So it's a very, very small, arguably tiny amount of the content in the exam. That being said, that's kind of a review also in my mind, domain 2. Then we get into domain 3, it's portfolio theory, not just MPT, but post-MPT and all the theories that have come after that. Well, a lot of them anyway, mixed with behavioral finance. One of the cool things I like about how they structured the curriculum in this particular certification, I think they're essentially acknowledging we can be really, really smart on mean variance optimization and all the different ways to do that with all the different investments we have and ways to gather data as inputs into our model. But you know what? If we can't control our own brains, our own emotions, our own behavior, if we can't help our clients do the same, then who cares really? Because they're just going to leave. Once we get a bad market, if I haven't helped them prepare mentally, emotionally for the next downturn, if diversification is my thing, if I really haven't laid a strong foundation for that and know from all these studies that we now have over the last about 30 years, what's probably going to happen the next time there are some waves out there in the economy of the market, and how can I get ahead of that, prepare my clients, one, that's most important, and then B, if I have to help them with reactions, how can I do that? So they mix all of that together in domain 3. Very exciting in my mind, part of the curriculum. Then we turn towards the math, risk and return. It's all about quantitative analysis at that point, attribution analysis, risk measurement, performance measurement, risk-adjusted performance and measurement, all that good stuff. Got a lot of really good resources for you there. So that's kind of the heavy lifting on the math. I just want to make a comment on that. In the old days, so say 7, 8, even 10 years ago, I would say almost half of this exam was math or math related. It was known in the industry to be pretty heavy, not CFA level, but it was known to be pretty heavy. That being said, they've cut that back significantly. I'm going to say 25% of it now, over the years of adjustments they've made, only 25% is math or math related. So it's, look, there's still plenty of math on it, and it's not horribly difficult math. A little bit of algebra will help you with some shortcuts here or there, but most of it's just addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, that kind of thing. And then we finish up with domain 5, portfolio construction. Really, it's the consulting process. So it kind of brings all of those first 4 domains together. You're looking at client scenarios, fact patterns, applying your knowledge, think what if scenarios. The economy's going great, but interest rates are falling. How does that have an impact on the different asset classes in your portfolio? What if we're stagnant in terms of economic growth or GDP, but interest rates are soaring? How does that have an impact on the different investments you have in the portfolio? And if you're on a more tactical style in terms of investment management and you can make changes, what changes might you consider in those situations? So domain 5 doesn't create a whole lot of new content. It just brings all the content you've been studying together in kind of more of an applied sense. So hopefully that helps you with the CIMA curriculum. Hopefully that either at least intuitively says, yeah, that's what I do in my practice. If I can get better at those things, then this is probably the certification for me. Or, and it's okay if this is the answer to, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a little bit of what I do, but not a ton. but then there's probably not for you. It's a great certification, but is it going to be worth you spending 100 or 200 hours to earn the certification? Maybe not. We'll talk about that in just a minute. All right, here's that offer I have for you. If you want this cool 5-page color-coded version, you can get it on IWI's website if you dig around. You can get it on our website if you dig around, or just shoot me an email. My email address, or one of them, is down there in the bottom right hand of the screen. Just shoot me an email. I'll be happy to send you the current topics list. This also has the exam weightings. There are about 500 topics when you count sub and subtopics on this. And I think my last bit of wisdom here is, if you're on the fence on the content side, like, is this a fit or not? Just read through every single line on these 5 pages. Probably won't take you more than 10 minutes. And just keep asking yourself, is learning more about this going to help me in my practice, help me in my career, my job responsibilities? It's going to help me serve my clients better. It's going to help me bring in new clients. It's going to help me with my confidence. If repeatedly the answer is mostly yes, then yeah, you're probably right on the money in terms of content. But if half or less, it really seems to be, in line with what you do or what you think you need to do, then probably not. And then if you have questions, another offer, just reach out to me by email. We can have a short phone call and kind of kick it around more. I mean, you really want to be certain that this is what you want to go for, because you're going to dedicate a fair amount of your life to it while you're going through the process. All right, here is the formula sheet. And it's pretty daunting when you look at it. The cool thing is you don't have to memorize it. You're going to have this exact copy accessible when you're testing. So that's very nice. And unlike CFP, which I still think doesn't do this, it's been a while since I took CFP exam, all these labels are going to be on it. When I took CFP exam years ago, you had the formulas, but they didn't tell you what it was. So you needed to be able to spot, what that formula is and know what it was. So in this situation, you're going to have these formulas in front of you when you're taking the exam, but you still need to know what these are. You're going to need to have worked through all of them, which is what we're going to have you do in the practice sets. And then you need to be able to know when to use them. So for example, if they say you're an active asset allocation manager or advisor, and you've got all these asset classes, but you're looking to replace your active emerging markets manager, which makes up 4.5% of your portfolio or whatever. And then they give you a bunch of facts. And they also tell you what you're looking for. And what you discern that they're looking for is consistency of outperformance over time. You might think alpha right off the top of your head. We all know alpha. Sometimes it's called Jensen's alpha, and that's probably how they've got it listed here. So that might be one you're looking for, but information ratio is actually much better because it's actually designed to do just that. Not only figure out alpha or outperformance, but over time, and what's the consistency of that outperformance. So anyways, that kind of level that you'll need to know in terms of these formulas. All right, let's do a quick, and then after this one, we'll stop and see if we've got any early questions. Just want to do a quick comparison on 4 of what I would say are easily some of the most admired, respected, rigorous certifications out there. This is CIMA. It's all investments. So if you did CFP, Certified Financial Planner, like I did, that's really all things financial planning, right? Really, really broad. It's not necessarily deep in every area. It really depends on the program and the level of program you did. Like, did you just do an online course, which was mostly intending to help you pass the exam? Or did you do a 2-year graduate program at a prestigious university where you took 3 investment courses as part of your CFP curriculum? So it really depends on how you got through CFP. But CIMA is a deeper dive for most of you in the investments section. So that's kind of the primary difference there. Both of those are accredited at the highest national level of professional certifying body accreditors, if you want to call them that. CPWA as well. And those are 3 of the only 4 or 5 financial services designations that are. So CFP board plays at the highest level, in my opinion. Investments and Wealth Institute also does as well. It's one of the reasons that I like these certifications, and we're offering the education and test prep through Yale. CPWA, the third one there, is the sister program at Yale. And it's like, for those of you who are CFPs or financial planners, have a very solid base, but you're really serving 10, 20, $50 million clients, and they have a unique set of needs, and many of their solutions or potential solutions are much more challenging and complex, especially from a tax and legal perspective, than we all studied in CFP land when we did that. So that's what CPWA is. It's more of an advanced financial planning certification in that regard. And then CFA, I've got them highlighted in black. That's not because it's bad. I think CFA is outstanding. And when I managed money on a discretionary basis for all those years, I really preferred the lead manager, if not having CFAs on their team that were CFAs. So somebody on that team, the management team, I really wanted to be CFA because I knew they had to have those skills, even if they didn't have a CFA. If they're managing tens of millions of dollars in an asset class for me, for my clients, or $100 million for that matter, I really need them to have that level of skills. That takes about 4 years for most people to get through. There are 3 levels of exams. You probably know pass rates are usually 30 something to 50% on each of those exams. And only around 7 or 8% I've seen actually complete the task once they begin. So it's really the most rigorous, grueling certification I know of. But again, I think those skills, those tools, that knowledge is needed if your plan is to become an institutional money manager. Like, think, I'm going to be managing one of the funds over at PIMCO or iShares or Nuveen or Merrill Lynch or wherever, or you're going to be a securities analyst. You're just scrutinizing the data all day, every day, going through financial statements, working your way up to institutional money manager. If that's your path, CIMA won't hurt you, no, but CFA is what you need. So you need to be moving in that direction, in my opinion. So anyway, some of the core differences between these: a year or less to complete CIMA and CPWA, about 6 months. Actually, for our candidates that come through the Yale program working towards CIMA certification, it's about 4 to 5 months once they actually, more than just log in, once they start dedicating about 10 hours a week. And I'll show you some of the numbers in a minute. That's not because CIMA is the easier test than these others. Well, CFA, because they have 3 grueling tests. CIMA just has 1 grueling test. And you cover much less material than CFP. That's why CFP takes about 1.5 years for most people on average. You just have to cover so much more material. Investments is just one area, and CIMA is just investment. So hopefully that helps a little with the clarity on the differences. Okay, I'm going to let you stare at these program goals and objectives. And Kelly, let's see if we've got any early questions.
Nothing at the moment.
All right. Well, at least I got to take a little sip of water. Let's forge ahead. But if you've got any questions, throw them out there. Everything's fair game. Okay, so I think when you're looking at an education and test prep provider, especially education provider, I think you really want to know what they're trying to help you do, right? Let's, just like you do with your clients, prospective clients, let's set the expectations accurately right up front. Our first one is kind of the no-brainer one, right? That 5 pages of content. Let's cover all of that material in one way or another. And I'm going to show you different ways we do it. But we want to cover all of it. We don't want to leave anything out, even if it's not highly tested. I'll circle back to that in a minute. Number 2 is the one I get most excited about, but it is the hardest one to measure. And that is to help you take this content, this knowledge, new resources that you have, create a program that allows you to take it back into practice, like right now, like even before you finish the program, before you get certified, allow you to start having discussions with colleagues, clients, prospects immediately that can help. That's the most impactful. And I've been doing this on the teaching side, in addition to having my own RIA for all those years, for over 20 years now. And clearly when I see you guys at the conferences, that's what comes up. I mean, yes, we're gonna have fun talking about how hard it was and that you got through it. And now you've got Yale on your wall and all that. And that's all really great stuff. But I think the most important here is, did it help you in your practice? Did it help you turn the corner, go to the next level, start bringing in new and better clients and serving your existing clients better? That's what makes the most difference. And so that is really at the core of what we're trying to help you do. And last but not least, because I was in your chair once as well, taking all these certification exams, is to help you prepare adequately to take and pass the CIMA certification exam. It's a challenging exam. You really got to study. I'll take an opportunity right now to say, look, this is not like the securities exams. I don't know. I probably took 8 or 10 of them, just like a number of you have probably taken that many as well through all the years. There were a couple that were kind of tricky and hard, but most of them were not, including the 7. This is much more challenging than most of those securities exams, including the Series 7 exam. For those exams, I think it's safe to say most of us, including myself, just use practice questions. Yeah, the test prep provider was walking us through stuff in a weekend cram course or whatever. But when it came down to it, it was studying the practice questions and the solutions from those practice questions. Then that got us to the finish line. That will not do it on this exam, just like it wouldn't do it for you on CFA or CFP or CPWA either. You're going to need to have a deeper understanding, a deeper dive, because they're going to throw some twists and turns at you on the exam that we can't anticipate. We can get you all set up, but we've got to have you fresh of mind and know that these concepts and applications well enough to when you see a twist or a turn, you don't panic, you don't freak out, you just go, okay, that's what Jim was preparing me for. That's what Yale's been preparing me for all this time. 80 or 90% of this stuff looks just, I know this. There's a couple of things in here. I need to read it again and see how they're twisting this a little bit, make the adjustment, get to my answer. So it is different in that regard from the licensing exams that we all took. I just wanted you to be clear on that going in. All right, don't mean to scare you off. I just want you to know what you're coming up to as you make this decision and you get on board with us. And speaking of getting on board with us, I want you to get on board 2 things. 1, with this certification, if it's going to help you in your practice, in your career. And number 2, I want you to get on board with Yale if it's the best fit for you. If it's not, then you shouldn't. And I hope that's what we're trying to flesh out for you here, help you figure out if Yale is a good fit. Okay, nuts and bolts, logistics and stuff, about $6,000. If you choose Yale, that's all inclusive. That includes your CIMA application, your candidacy, background checks, testing fees, all that stuff. And it includes the Yale course as well and our test prep materials. We're the only ones that created our own test prep materials. Well, why wouldn't I? I've been doing this for 15 years, right? So let's create our own test prep materials, videos, practice questions, summaries, etc. And let's put that in the program. Let's not make this hard. Let's not make this complicated. Let's have a program that includes the course and the test prep materials, so the candidates don't need to do anything else. They don't need to pay anything else. They don't need to go get any more materials. Everything they've got to be successful is right there in the program. You can do this at any time. So we're asynchronous. There's a timing component you see there at the bottom bullet point. You've got a year before we're going to ask you to make another investment. And I'll come back to that in a minute. That being said, it shouldn't take anybody a year to do this. And you start whenever you want. So like if you're in tax season right now, if you're getting this to strengthen your skills in investments, but you're a tax specialist, you're an advisor, and man, y'all do compilation, you do tax planning. The first quarter is just heavy for you. This is not the time to start CIMA, right? Let's get through April. And then when things lighten up for you at least a little bit, then that might be good. So my point is, I think timing is relatively important. It's not critical, but it'll help you just have less pressure on you that you got to finish in a year if things get super busy and you get distracted from your CIMA studies. So I think you just look out over the next few months and go, is these next few months, are these any better or any worse than it is normally? If the answer is no, I think that's about the same, then now is a good time to start. If you look at the next few months and go, yeah, this is usually one of my heaviest times. Nope, just wait a few months, clear the hurdle like you always do every year at this time of year, and then go ahead and apply and get started once the dust kind of settles. Now, having been in practice for so many years, I realize the dust never really settles, right? But there are some things in your practice that you can anticipate. Staff time, colleagues, sales and marketing periods. There are things that you have a decent idea. I totally get it. When you've got a full client base, you never know when client A, B, or Z is going to call up and say, I've got really great news or really horrible news. And then, you're just scrambling to help them as best you can. So I get that. But I think you can probably look out over your calendar and make a decent educated guess. As I mentioned, you've got a year to finish, and that's what your $6,000 pays for as it relates to Yale access. That being said, even if somebody gets in a bind, and occasionally somebody does, and it's like, just time got away from me. I took on a lot of clients, had a huge year. CIMA just kind of took a back seat in my priorities. Well, the good news is everything's downloadable. And so you really just need to finish the course part and then just download all the test prep and study off your own hard drive until it comes time and you're ready to take the certification exam. If you're like, well, I could do that, but my firm's paying for it anyways, so I'll just pay the $2,250, which is, I think, what we charge right now for an extra year of access. So you could always do that, and we have people do that too. But the bigger deal is it shouldn't take anybody a year, especially once you start putting in 10 hours a week. Shouldn't take anybody a year to knock this out. All right, so it is completely online, so obviously no need to travel. Everything's on demand. We used to play around with some live in the beta testing. We used to do some live sessions. So few people came to the live sessions. It just wasn't worth it because everybody's like, yeah, I like to study it on Wednesday night or Sunday morning or whatever. Okay, so everything's on demand. It just makes it much more convenient. So you study not only whenever, but wherever you choose. You could download all of these videos as MP4s or convert them to MP3s if you just want to listen to them, and just do that wherever you want. Study at your own pace. That's huge, I think, and doing this for 20 years, counting the old CFP days when I was teaching CFP programs. You guys are all over the place, even on this, the 28 participants it looks like we have on this Zoom call today. You're probably all over the board in terms of who wants to go fast, who wants to go slow. I bet you we've got some newbies in the group that have only been in the business for a couple of years. And I bet you we've got some people that have been in the business 15 or 20 or more years. So we needed to create a program that allowed you to move fast or slow, and to where you didn't have an impact or the others didn't have an impact on you. If I want to go fast, I don't want people that need to go slow slowing me up because I'm going to get impatient. If I want to go slow and be more diligent, or maybe I'm newer to the business, all these fast trackers are going to be freaking me out and they're stressing me out. I don't want that. So you're not going to be in cohorts in that sense. You're going to get to move fast or slow, and it won't impact you what the other people around you are doing. And as I mentioned before, everything is downloadable. You can copy, save, and print whatever you want. Just don't put it out there in the public. Don't share it with anybody. That's the caveat. I dread the day, I hope we never see it, where our content, our Yale content, is out there on Quizlet and all the other online study sites. That's the only no-no. Now, this is just for you. You paid for it, or your firm paid for it for you. So you can't share it, but you can download, put it on your own hard drive, print it, whatever you want to do. No problem with that. All right, here's a big one. We've kind of been dancing around it a little bit, but let's kind of hit this one on the head a little bit more narrowly. 100 to 200 hours is a good range. I fully expect 90%, at least 80% of our candidates get this done, get through, and get certified in 100 to 200 hours. Now, I know that's a bit of a range, but as you can imagine, like we talked about, with all your different experience, existing knowledge, what you've studied from a technical perspective before, study habits, test taking skills. Yeah, absolutely. That plays into this as well, because the CIMA certification exam developed by the committee, the certification commission over at IWI, it's a specific kind of exam. Now we're going to help you with that because we know some of the things they do and some of the things they don't do. But if you're not as strong a test taker, it may take you a couple of attempts. There's no harm in that. Under 50 hours happens. I'm not going to say it's ultra rare. 14 days is the record. Not that I'm tempting any of you to try to beat 14 days, but we have had a few students log in to the Yale course on day 1, and day 14, they have gotten through everything, not only gotten through everything, but they are sitting for and they passed their certification exam. So that's possible. Now, that's probably an exceptional student, and they probably have some years of experience, and they probably have another designation or two, so they kind of know what to expect in terms of rigor. But others could take over 500 hours. Now, that one is quite an exception, but we do have that every year. Now, we have 500, 600, sometimes 700 people coming into the program in any given year. So if we have a handful, 6, 7, 8, 10, 2 handfuls of people that take over 500 hours, well, that's not a big percentage of 400 to 700 people. But that can happen. I'm just saying, if you have learning disabilities challenges, you're 2 years into the business, all you've ever done is your 7 and one of your 60, 62, 65 exams, 63, whatever. This may take you longer than 200 hours. So I just want to be realistic on that. Hey, look, none of you are 17 years old. Well, I shouldn't say that. Somebody might be, but all of you are in or through college at least. You kind of already have an idea in taking business courses, finance courses, investment courses, studying for your 7, etc. If you're a strong test taker or not, right? So your intuition's probably already telling you maybe about where you fall in the 100 to 200 hours. Use your history and your intuition on that one. But no, this might be the most challenging exam you've taken, depending on what your history is as well. But again, the bottom line is, look, it's really up to you when you start and how long it's going to take you and how quickly you want to get through, or whether you want to take it slow and be more diligent and suck everything out of this as you can and take the whole 12 months. Totally up to you. All right, let's talk about the course and the test prep for a couple slides, and then we'll see if we've got questions. And it looks like we might have a couple of questions, so that's good. Keep those coming. More. All right, so remember I said we've got a program and it's got 2 parts. We've got the course. You're required to complete a CIMA Registered Education program or course, as IWI calls it. Okay, so that's our part A. And it's going to take you about 40 hours, maybe 30 to get through. You're going to watch lectures, just like if you were in our classroom in New Haven. And then after different sections, you're going to take tests, short tests, about a dozen to maybe 3 dozen questions on each test. There are 11 of them currently. You need to pass all of those to pass the course. Now, they're not proctored. They're just in your platform. You can take them as many times as you want. We have a nice prescription for how I really want you to go through and try to attempt these without using notes and whatever first, maybe even second attempt, blah, blah, blah. So there's a nice prescription for you to get through them, but that's the course. It's videos and tests. That being said, you'll already at that point have access to our readings library. My book from a few years ago through Wiley, I think it's still the only CIMA textbook, believe it or not, is part of that, and you have access to that in PDF. Now, that being said, we don't print out and send anything. You can print whatever you want, as I've already mentioned a couple of times. You can buy that book through Amazon. I don't get any royalties, by the way, for about $100. Sometimes it's a little bit more. I don't think you really need that. This isn't like, for those of you who are old like me and in your 50s, where, we actually had textbooks back in the day, right? And we studied them, and we came to class on Tuesday and we went through those chapters and took a quiz or something. Yeah, we use the textbooks in this online program, but we use them differently. It's your library. So when myself or any of the instructors just goes through something and you're like, I think this is important, and you're like, I clearly didn't get it. Well, just back up and watch that part again. But if you still don't understand it after watching it again, then you probably want to go into the readings library, and we've got that cross-sectioned by topics, of course. Then you're going to want to read more. There may be 7 pages, there may be 50 pages on it, but those readings sometimes are going to be necessary for all of you to really dive in and sharpen the saw, fill in some knowledge gaps, or whatever you want to call it, because the video or some of the practice questions we're going to talk about in a minute, they just didn't do it for you, and you clearly don't fully grasp it. Now get back into one of about 6 different texts that we use. Read up more about it, go through some more description, be a different description, examples, even practice questions in the text. That should help you nail down what you need to nail down. Okay, so 30 to 40 hours to get through the course. Once you've done that, we go ahead and send your name to IWI. Hey, Jim has completed the course. He's eligible to sign up for the exam. You won't want to do the exam just yet, but you're eligible. They will send you instructions on how to get scheduled for your exam. And then I'll tell you how to kind of guess how long it's going to take you in just a minute. But then you're going to have earned your Yale certificate. So even before you take the certification exam, you've completed what we needed to see so that we can send you a certificate of this course completion through Yale SOM. So you're going to get that in all likelihood before you even take your certification exam. And then the big thing that you'll notice inside the platform is, wow, all that test prep I saw that was kind of gray or highlighted, but I couldn't open it. Now it all opens for you. So it's finished. As soon as you finish that 11th required test in the course area, all of the test prep is going to populate. And what does that test prep include? Well, the content is the same, but we cover it at different levels for test prep, as you can imagine. But the resources are all different, with the exception of the library. You still have access to all those 2,000 plus pages of readings. Well, actually, it's probably more like 2,500 plus, because my textbook alone is 1,100. So it's a lot of readings there for you. But the videos are going to be different. Now you're going into shorter snippet videos from me in 23 sections, going through about 1,000 test prep slides or summaries that you see there on the second bullet point, where I'm saying, I'm not going through all those concepts and applications again. You did a lot of that, hopefully, in the course when you actually watched those video lectures and took good notes. But I'm just going to say, hey, look, this is really important. See these next 3 slides? They test on this all the time. This is high probability. I think you really need to know this really, really well. It's right here on and I'm just going through their topic outline, literally topic by topic, line by line. See these next 2 slides? They almost never test on this. I don't know why. Doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to help you prepare for this exam. So skim over these next 2 slides. Don't worry about them. Low probability you're going to see them. See the next 4 slides? These are the last bucket. These are mid probability. They are regularly tested for sure, but they're not like almost every time, as we talk with you guys, candidates, every week, having just taken the exam. But they're not so lightly tested, they almost never show up. So they're somewhere in the middle, 50-50, 40-60, 60-40. So you need to know these, but they're second priority to your high priority. So that's a way to get through 500 plus topics, clearly over 1,000 when you count subtopics, and 1,000 test prep slides. That's the way to do it, just to save you time, to have you focus on what's most highly probable to be tested. So there's about 6 or 7 hours of just going through the 23 sections, getting you ready so you don't waste a lot of time studying a bunch of stuff that's probably not going to show up. We do give you those 30, 60 day, 90-day test prep schedules. You don't have to use them, but I know that some of you like structure, at least at the beginning, till you get comfortable. Just give me some guardrails, give me some best practices, even give me a daily schedule, which we did. And then you start with, if you want to fast track it, go for the 30-day. If you're like, no, I'm going to need some more time, go with the 90-day. And as you'll see in my test prep videos, if you're not sure, just shoot right down the middle. Go for the 60-day. If you want to speed up, you can. If you want to slow down, you can as well. Those are really just meant to give you guidance. But as Kelly, I think, mentioned earlier, yeah, we're actually over now like 3,500 candidates in this program over the 7 years or whatever it's been. So we've learned a lot from over 3,000 candidates in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to give you that guidance. Here's a misnomer. Well, you only give us one mock exam. Well, that's not entirely true. We give you one set of practice questions in a mock exam structure. That's true. But when you do all of our practice questions, and trust me on this one, if I've got a practice question, whether it's in a slide or the practice sets after each 23 sections or the mock exam, every single question is important. I don't want to give you 2,000 questions where half of them just really aren't that helpful or meaningful. I want to give you whatever the right number is, and most of these questions are dead on the money. That's what I want to give you. This exam's only 140 questions long. So some would say, well, 1,000 plus is probably overkill. I think it's about right, having done this for 15 years on CIMA. And so I think you just want to stick to the plan. You really don't want to take matters into your own hand. And the last thing you want to do is do like we did, in the securities exams, just study a practice test or two. That is not going to get it done. So the full-length mock exam, yep, we used to have multiple mock exams in that structure. Hardly anybody ever did multiple mock exams. I want you to go through every single one of the 1,000 plus practice questions I gave you, not just the mock exam. Okay, I'll stop lecturing now and we'll move on. Let's go ahead and answer those questions, Kelly.
Okay, great. Yeah, we do have a few, so we're going to jump around a little bit in terms of topic. I've been in the industry for a little over 3 years. My AUM is around 7.5 million. My average client has around 250 to 500,000 in assets. Is this a useful license for me being so new to the industry and with a relatively low AUM?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, clearly some of the answer is yes, because you're gonna, in theory anyway, nail down some concepts, some applications, think about different ways to manage even a relatively small AUM at this point. Clearly having Yale in your bio or resume, clearly having the CIMA certification is going to help, because it's going to show prospects and clients that you're serious about this business and you're serious about your learning and your skills. That being said, are there better things to do? My gut feel is I would just make sure that you're going to be in practice for a few more years. So do this if you've got the time, but by golly, get those AUM up, right? So with that, I mean, it could go on for days, but I'll stop there. If you want to talk about your particular situation, just shoot me an email. Let's just have a talk in the next couple of days. I bet in 5 or 10 minutes, we can get a lot done over the phone to talk about your situation. But I do think it will help you clearly. I just wouldn't want you to do this at the expense of, well, your business stalls and you don't bring in any more money and you're out of business in a year or something like that. It's probably a stretch, but that would be my concern.
Okay. I haven't taken an investment class since I did the CFP 20 years ago. I'm more interested in the curriculum than the designation. What tools do we use to evaluate model portfolios?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you're going to have videos. We don't use any software. Obviously, there's a lot of software out there that you can use to model these. Heck, you can even, if you're like me in graduate school, you can build your own Excel spreadsheets to do an MVO, depending on what you want to get done. We're not going to do any of that at that level. We're going to do traditional explanation of what these are. What are the high points? What are the low points? What are the risks? What are the payoffs or the benefits? What are the negatives? Where does modern portfolio theory come up short? Which clearly there are very significant areas in which it does, but it's still a very useful tool. So we're going to go through it at that level. And you're going to also have, in addition to lectures on that, you're going to have a lot of readings as well. So that would be the primary way that you're going to go through a bunch of different strategies and methodologies for managing money in certain areas that are more prominent, or let's just say they're more popular in the last 10 years or so. You're going to get more information. So smart beta, we're going to go through pretty exhaustively. We're going to go through factor models and the history of factors, risk factors, in terms of looking at modern portfolio in a different kind of way, assuming that there are other betas important, not just the beta to the market, whichever market you choose, but to sectors and to slices of the market. ESG SRI, we've got about an hour and a half of really, really detailed lecture by Todd Court, one of the, in my mind, clearly one of the smartest guys in this space on the Yale faculty. Probably more than most of you want to know on ESG-SRI, but we want to make sure you're well armed in that space, especially as that's a new but very popular space. We don't know where it will go, but so anyway, that hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea. But we're not going to do modeling exercises or let's all break into your demo software and let's do 6 cases based on these different parameters. That level we're not going to do. So hopefully that helps. But if it didn't, again, reach out to me and we can have a discussion one-on-one.
Okay. Are the CIMA exam results provided directly after completing, or is there a waiting period?
Yeah, right now there's not a waiting period. I've been doing this a long time, and there have been a couple of periods through the years in which there was. There is not right now. So you finish your 140th question, it says, "Are you done?" And you think about it, and then you go, "Yes." And then they say, "Are you sure?" And then once you hit it the second time, you got to wait about a minute to get your results. So it's not instant. It's a stressful minute, but yeah, you're going to get it right on site.
Okay, and could you just reiterate the Yale program tests, like how many there are, and is there a final, and can you take them more than once?
Yeah, we used to do one comprehensive final. We don't do that anymore. That was just much better to break it up by content. So instead of one final exam to pass the Yale course, you have 11 tests throughout the course. Once you pass all 11, you don't have to take them in order. You can take them as many times as you need to. They are not proctored. They're just in your platform. So once you finish a section of lecture videos, then you'll see how we recommend that you study for the test, which won't be a lot of study, but just to kind of clean things up from your notes. Go in and take your test. If it takes you once, great, move on to the next section. You got 10 more to go. If it takes you 4 times, that's fine too. And then that just means you probably for section 2 need to slow it down a bit, right? And study more for details, focus more on those video lectures. So that's what it is. Series of 11 tests, not one comprehensive exam on the course. Again, once you finish those 11 tests, then you move into test prep, and it is all about CIMA certification exam at that point on. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, I'm actually happy to field this one. For those taking this course through an employer tuition assistance program, could you separately provide an official letter of completion? Yes, if you reach out to us, we don't do it, sort of by default, but if you do need that, once you complete the Yale education portion, if you reach out to us, we can provide that for you. And it looks like our final questions are regarding experience. Does experience as a remote trader for a prop firm count? And does experience as an investment advisor in your own solo RIA count?
Yeah, definitely on the latter, but probably on the former as well. If you have questions on what would meet the experience requirement, the 3-year experience requirement by your certifying body, which is Investments and Wealth Institute, IWI, just reach out to them directly and say, "Hey, I think I've got what counts, but can you just take a quick look at this and give me your idea?" They've probably seen it before and they can give you a good read. They may have to say, "Well, we need to send it to committee," but yeah, just shoot them an email, say this is what it is in bullet point. And I think on the 2 examples you gave me, I think they would give you credit for all of that.
Okay, we are all caught up on the questions. Thank you.
All right, so let's kind of head down the stretch and take this home. You've been staring at the lady all happy about her exam. I assume that means like she passed, right? Anyway, 140 multiple choice questions, 5 hours to do it. You can take that through Pearson VUE testing centers, those testing centers that we've all been and taken a bunch of tests at, or you can take it online at home. I don't generally recommend that, and you'll see why in the program. It doesn't mean don't do it. It just means there are some hiccups. There are some things you need to know before you go into that. So that's a little bit of a teaser for you. And we have a lot of our candidates do it online at home in their pajamas, I'm sure. And that's fine, but there are just some things you need to know before you take that route. Going in person is usually the best. Calculator policies, you're definitely going to need a financial calculator for this exam. If you don't have one or don't feel great about yours or haven't used yours in forever, Go to tvmcalcs.com, spend about an hour on that website. The two financial calculators, the HP and the TI, the very first one of each of those are both very, very popular in our program. You can't go wrong with either of those two. So if you don't know, or just time to buy a new one, get the first TI or the first HP. Either one will be just fine. We don't lay out, because there are about 12 or 14 calculators allowed on this exam. We don't go through the solutions step by step on every calculator. That would just be crazy. So you do need to be familiar with your calculator and go into this guy's free website and spend an hour just going through 12 or 15 of really popular problems and questions with your specific model, because he does show you all the different models, and that will help you be more efficient once you get to us. All right, well, where's my help? This is a big one. So this is a distance learning course. It's self-study, it's online, but there is help for you. You do need to be pretty autonomous to be able to pull this off. But let me just give you some background and some color here to help with that. There are orientation videos, orientation for the program, orientation for the exam prep, orientation for Canvas, the platform even. So having done this for so long, I kind of know where some of you are going to get tripped up or need a little extra guidance up front. So we can get ahead of that with best practice tips in writing and in video, and all the helpful best practices videos you have there as well. The discussion board is invaluable, I think, in this program. You got 23 sections of content, and you never know when you're going to get stuck. And as some of you have skipped down to the bottom already and seen 12 question limit, that's just for content. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Your best path is, I'm in section 17 or section 8, and I'm struggling with the CAPM. It's been a lot of years since I studied the capital asset pricing model and the SML and all the CPM and all that stuff. It's just confusing. Go to the discussion board in that section, do a Control F search on your keyboard. Pretty good chance somebody's already been kicking that one around in the discussion board. We clean those out regularly, but I keep the important and the deeper dive questions and answers in there to act as an FAQ for you. So you don't have to burn one of your lifelines, as we call them, your 12 content question limits on that. You just go into the discussion board, see what other people are kicking around, and how an instructor has helped them through those things. Yale and Dobbs staffs are working 8 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday. So if you ever have a question on what's my login, I forgot the URL, my password, oh no, I think I have 3 more months, but I can't remember, just reach out to us. Those don't count. You get as many of those as you want to. You have Canvas Tech Help basically 24/7 if you have a technology issue. The more common ones are the ones you can think of. But for those of you who have never taken an online course, here's one. You're at work, you're at home and you're studying, doing lots of videos and whatever the night before, great, no problem. You go into the office and man, your videos look weird, or some of them won't even come up. Okay, it's probably either a firewall issue, could be the operating system, certainly could be a browser issue, depending on what browser your company allows you to use on your work applications. So Canvas has technology help for that basically 24/7. So that's how you'll reach out to them. Where you do have that limit is on the content. In the early days, we knew we would have to limit it. So we started seeing what students experienced, what candidates experienced, and we came up with 12 questions. And now many years later, since we put that into place, as we actually track that the best we can, only about, in this particular program, only about 3, maybe 3.5% on the high end of our candidates end up using their 12 questions. So you might argue it doesn't have to be 12. We could have done it lower than that for sure at 3.5%. But I do want you to use those questions. If you hit something that's really important in your practice, or you think it's going to be important on the test, because I told you in another video and you just don't get it, you definitely want to reach out. We have a faculty member that handles those, works with you guys on those. He has office hours. I believe it's on Monday afternoon and Thursday afternoon for this particular program. And then if you ever have questions on, is my study plan even right? Am I missing something here? No limit on reaching out to make sure you're on the right path. Great faculty. You can read more about everybody on online. I'll mention I worked with Toby over 15, almost 20 years now, a number of different programs and even a couple of different schools. And we've got the legend, Roger Ibbotson, going through market history. So that's really cool just to have a legend like him in this program as well. Brag, 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 brag. We're not perfect, but we try really hard, as Kelly can attest. And there's more of that kind of feedback information on our website. So we've just been trying to spend this hour helping you figure out what's important to you. What do you think maybe not as important? And how does Yale fit into that or not? If flexibility, the comprehensive coverage, different forms of learning, videos, practice sets, the mock exam eventually, shorter test prep videos with summary slides, all that. If having a wide range is going to help, then I think we're the place for you probably. But look, down here near the end, you got to have motivation and self-discipline to get through this. We're going to be sending you reach outs all the time. I'm going to be doing it weekly. We're going to do it through email monthly as well, just to stay on top of mind for you. But you still got to have the motivation to make yourself do the work since you won't be in class. So keep that in mind. But look, if you're up for the challenge, we would love to have you come join us at Yale if you determine it's a good fit for you. And then lastly, when you're ready to get started, you can go through our website, but you're just going to end up at IWI's website. So you can just go to their website, again, do the scholarship application first, get your results, and then apply for candidacy. And then in about 2 weeks, you'll be up and running, hopefully, if you're accepted at Yale. All right, that's it. That's my contact information. Kelly's as well. Feel free to reach out to me regarding anything regarding the CIMA certification or our program. I hope that was helpful. I know we're right at time, but Kelly, were there any other questions?
Let's see. I think so we did just have one come in. So I'll just say, in case anyone has to hop off, we will be sharing the recording and the slides in the coming days. So we did just have one more question come in. The IWI website says there's a 90-day window to take the exam after completion of the Yale course. When does that window begin?
Yeah, that window actually begins when you click on a hot link in the email they send you after we've told them you passed. So you'll see instructions in our program that says, hey, look, if you've gotten through the course, but you're like, you don't want to start your 90-day window, well, then you can open their email, but don't click on the links because that's going to start your timer for whatever reason, contract-wise or logistics, administration, whatever. That's the trigger. So you're not going to want to do that. So you could sit on that for weeks or months. Really wouldn't want you to do months, but one of the instructions we have or recommendations we have in the program is if you're on the fence or you're not sure you want to start the 90-day window, okay, well, don't click on anything in their email yet. Go ahead and get into test prep that you now have access to in our program and just do a survey. Just go through the domains, some of the videos, look at the practice questions, kind of see the lay of the land, actually take some of the section questions just to see how hard it is. I think that's going to give you a decent idea of when you're ready to start the 90-day window. But the bottom line is that's in your hands, so that's pretty cool.
Okay, I think we are all set then. So thanks a lot, Jim, and thanks to everyone who joined us, and thank you for all your great questions. As Jim mentioned, if you have any other questions that come up or any other information you're looking for, you can visit our website or certainly reach out to either of us with any questions. As I mentioned, we will be sharing the video and the slides with this group in the coming days. And this concludes our webinar. So thanks again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.